بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعزائي المشاهدين، سيداتي وسادتي، أهلا ومرحبا بكم في حلقة جديدة ومتجددة من برنامج نزاهة. هذا البرنامج الحقيقة الهدف منه هو حاجتين: التوعية والتثقيف. نثقف المجتمع السعودي في الدرجة الأولى بكيف يكافح الفساد وكيف يحمي النزاهة، ويسر الهيئة الوطنية لمكافحة الفساد نزاهة في المملكة العربية السعودية أن تشرف على هذا البرنامج. طبعا من خلال هذا البرنامج نحن نستضيف شخصيات كبيرة عالمية لها بصمات في مكافحة الفساد وحماية النزاهة. معنا اليوم الأستاذة نيكولاي إهلرمان، وهي نائبة مدير برنامج الاستثمار في منظمة OECD. طبعا تخبرنا الكثير عن هذه المنظمة، ولكننا يجب أن نعرف من هي نيكولا إهلرمان. Tell us a bit about your background.
Well, good day. I represent an international organization which is called the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. It is an intergovernmental organization which brings together 34 countries from what one calls market economies that have a commitment to democracy. It is an organization which has a lot of European countries, North American, some Asian countries like Japan, South Korea, also some countries like Australia and New Zealand. Because the world is growing, I'm working in a program that is aimed at engaging in a dialogue with the Arab countries, North Africa and the Middle East. And our main objective in the program I represent is to work on improving the business climate, developing investment, entrepreneurship, in particular small and medium-sized companies as well.
Nicola, OECD. We need an explanation or a meaning for this abbreviation OECD.
And that's what I was just saying. It is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development.
Great.
For organization, economic for E, cooperation for C, and development for D. It is a organization that is now 51 years old.
Where is it located?
Its headquarters is in Paris. It operates a little bit like a think tank. Government representatives from various knowledge come together to discuss good practices and develop recommendations for all the countries present, and occasionally also for countries that are not members. We operate in committees where the experts come together, and we cover a wide range of issues from agriculture to energy to investment, financial regulations, education, trade. So the areas of interventions are very broad. One of the key areas for the organization, and also a stepping stone for becoming a member in the organization, is a convention that was adopted in 1997 and has come in force in 1999. It is called the Convention on Combating Bribery of Foreign Public Officials in International Business Transactions. I've been serving this convention and the relating working group for over 10 years, and after that I have come to work in a program specifically dedicated to the Arab region, and ever since it is a very important aspect for me and for my team to work on leveling the playing field, improving the business climate through the prevention of corruption in these countries.
Nikolai, this is the first time that you have visited Saudi Arabia, and you've been working for many Arab countries, probably involved with your activities. How did you find Saudi Arabia, And did you find whatever you heard about it outside of the kingdom?
Well, I am very thankful for the National Commission Against Corruption for having made this trip possible. It is indeed the first time I come to Saudi Arabia, and I'm particularly honored and pleased to come for an international event on fighting corruption and preventing corruption in Saudi Arabia. Because I have never been in Saudi Arabia before, it is very difficult for me to make a point of comparison. What I can say is the meeting is very well organized, the issues are very well identified, and the fact that the Anti-Corruption Commission exists for 2 years now is a good thing. I read their documentation. The discussions that I had with experts from the Commission shows that there is a lot of concern to going into the right directions. And for the OECD that I represent, this is certainly something that is also very important, because Saudi Arabia is a very big player in the international arena. And so to look together in the same direction and seek to develop common standard to leveling the playing field for business is certainly a very important aspect. And of course also for seeking integrity in your own administration, which is also part of the concern of the National Commission.
You have read the strategy for national anti-corruption and protecting the committee. What did you find in this? Do you think that this strategy would help the people of Saudi Arabia in particular to defend themselves against the corruption and to protect integrity in their country?
The strategy is very well written. It is, from what I can say in my experience, very broad and captures a lot of issues. From what we have seen in other countries, it is important to have a strategy, but more than a strategy, it is important to have a political will. The will comes from the very top, and a paper should not stay a paper, and paper needs to be implemented.
Right.
But I would think that in the strategy you have the elements for implementation. If the Anti-Corruption Commission, with the support, and I think it reports to the King, with the support of the King and other instances of the government, implement effective preventive tools, but also manage to detect malfeasance and probably have to at some point prosecute certain people, that will set the standards and give also the people hope. I think what I have seen in other Arab countries is a certain impatience, and I would like to warn in front of that. When I started working in the region, I was told by many that fighting corruption was not an issue. And now, since the Arab Revolution, everybody speaks about it. And people now have the impression that you have to go very, very fast. And of course, it would be nice to show results. But in order to show results, one has to put one step before the other. And I think in Saudi Arabia, you have been very concerned, for instance, to review first the obligation of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. And it's only once you have had everything in place and you are secure that you can live up to it, that you have ratified it in April of this year. So I think this is a wise approach. I would encourage to continue going step by step, not too slow, but not too fast either. And I'm sure that also international organizations, in particular the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development that I represent, would be very pleased to accompany Saudi Arabia in this development, in sharing, for instance, practices that we have learned over the last 10-15 years. Good practices, but maybe also elements that have not led to so good results. So we can stand ready to assist in that.
Good. في زيارتك الأولى للمملكة العربية السعودية وتأكدت أنك التقيت ببعض السيدات السعوديات. الآن المملكة العربية السعودية أو المرأة السعودية تعيش يعني في عهد خادم الحرمين الشريفين فرصتها الكبيرة، وهو دخول 30 امرأة إلى مجلس الشورى. ماذا يعني للمرأة الأوروبية حينما تأتي المملكة العربية السعودية وتسمع وتشاهد وتلتقي بنساء سعوديات وصلنا إلى هذه المرحلة؟ In your first visit to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, there are 30 women who entered Majlis al-Shura, the parliament. You heard a lot about Saudi Arabia before you came, we are sure. But being in Saudi Arabia, you have met many Saudis. As a matter of fact, so many of them were reporters and you talked to them. What do you think about the future of women, of the Saudi women in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, fighting the corruption and protecting the integrity?
So you're asking me two questions.
Three
One
questions.
is about the women and one is about women in the fight against corruption. Regarding women, I have the impression from what I have read that there is a lot of change that has been made. 50 years ago, little girls would probably not go to school. Meanwhile, girls go to school. They are now extremely well educated. They're extremely knowledgeable. And although I understand that there is cultural consideration, I also have the impression that your government has made a decision to empower them more and give them the opportunity to develop the country with the men. Women, well-trained women who are not involved in the economy are probably representing an untapped pool of expertise that could help grow the country. My understanding is that Saudi Arabia wants to go through a form of change, redeploy its economy, create employment for the youth, go into new sectors, diversify a little bit away from the traditional energy. So I think well-trained women can be a very strong asset for this economy because they have another view of things and they can certainly be creative in using new technologies, in bringing their expertise to the economy. It has been shown in studies in OECD countries that when you have a diversified pool of experts, your business is better, your business is more solid, it is growing more regularly, and you are also more creative in what you develop. So this is, I have heard your Minister of Economy, he was in Paris a month ago on an investment fair together with the French government, and there were a lot of commercial deals discussed in this arena. But in his opening, he was speaking about the development of your country, but he was also stressing the importance that your country was now attaching to women, and 30 women in the Shura Council is certainly a very good thing. I incidentally also work on gender empowerment. I think there are a few more steps that could be taken probably.
Such as?
Well, for instance, of course it's a big debate about driving, but a woman that is self-supporting herself and can drive herself a car can probably engage better in daily life than if she has to be driven. Same thing if she can, for instance, manage her business herself. I know there have been some reforms in Saudi Arabia that have been done, and then there is a whole area where there may be also benefit for women to be given some self-assurance that they can make it and that they can bring the asset to the country. Because if they are not trained that very young, they may doubt it.
Right.
So far for the women.
Great.
For the women in anti-corruption.
Right.
If the women are well trained, if you have excellent lawyers, if you have excellent accountants, then why not involve them in such work as done by the Anti-Corruption Commission? They are very solid worker in my experience. They pay attention to detail, and they can certainly bring expertise and a different view again in the Commission.
In your speech now and today, in your interview to one of our colleagues, to one of the newspapers, Saudi newspaper, you have mentioned something very, very important. You focused on educated women, trained women, that she can solve any problem facing her. I want to know the percentage of women that can defeat the percentage of men fighting the corruption and protecting the integrity. Did you get that? Get it?
This question I don't get, and I don't think I can address it.
You said educated women and trained women can,
like men, and they have maybe complementary skills.
Now why men probably commit more not crime but corruption than women? What's the percentage of women that can really, or if there are some women that probably commit corruption, I want to know who is stronger to fight corruption, men or women?
On this one, I cannot have a very clear answer because at the OECD we have never done any work on this. Personally, I've done research on public procurement and the risk of corruption, on intermediaries and certain technical aspects of the corruption problems in the 10 years that I worked on it. I have read studies. I have read that women in less well-off environments, if they live in an environment where there is a lot of petty corruption, small corruption for daily work, then the women suffer mostly more than the men. They're more solicited. A, because they are more in front of the administrations. Second, because they cannot defend themselves so well. I have also heard that very small companies, like microcredit companies run by women, are subject to a lot of demand for corruption. When it comes to bigger corruption, some people say, and it's not me, some people say that women don't corrupt as much as men. Here I would say the gender balance is distorted because in highest position it is men who do business, it is men who run companies, and it is men who do business on a daily basis. It is not necessarily the woman. So maybe there's a distorting effect that women are not present at the high level of companies to engage in business transactions which involve corruption. This being said, there are also people that say that women have been the ones who have identified corruption in very big scandals, such as the Enron scandal at some point. I don't know whether women have a different way of acting in society. There are other gender studies that say women are more concerned by their children, by the environment, by securing the future. So what their attitude is vis-a-vis corruption, I don't know. I live in a country where I have never, ever in my whole life been asked to bribe anybody. Not for my passport, not for my papers, not for buying my car, not my house, no nothing. So it is something that is difficult for me to address because I know that there are environments in which corruption is practiced in a much more frequent way, and I don't know what sort of impact the environment also has on the individual. If you ask me, I wouldn't even know how to corrupt.
You don't know. But نيكولاي نريدك أن تتحدثي عن كيف نوعي ونثقف المجتمع بمكافحة الفساد وحماية النزاهة.
Yes, we spoke about the anti-corruption strategy. I think it is very important to start at the top, that there be a clear signal from the highest level in this country to say this is something we do not wish anymore, we do not tolerate. Probably it has been the case in other countries. There will be some examples that will have to be shown, that will have to be punished. because you can help people with a carrot, but mostly the stick frightens a bit. So yes, you have to probably hit a little bit, and then people will understand. And then you show by example. If you can find an institution that engages in corruption-free development, you can illustrate how it operates and how it makes things easier. For instance, if the business climate is improved, if investment are facilitated, if the people understand why they do certain transaction, if you facilitate, for instance, the red tape, if you facilitate the legislation, if people are explained and trained how to do their job and how to avoid corruption. You can also do things in administrations such as rotating people on a very frequent basis. I heard recently that in my country, in Germany, in the foreign embassies for giving visas, every morning in some countries, the employer has to pick a, how do you say, a los. You get an, you don't go every day to your workplace. Every day it's decided anew, you go there, so that you have no relation with the people on the other side.
كونك ألمانية أوروبية قدمت إلى المملكة العربية السعودية، نصيحة أو رسالة تقدمينها إلى المرأة السعودية بصورة خاصة.
I think it is a message to the Saudi society at large, and it is to try to look together in the same direction and seek to do the good and avoid engaging in corruption. We were speaking earlier about children. I think children know quite well what is right and wrong, and we know it also inside of us. So you have an anti-corruption strategy, you have an anti-corruption commission, and you have put in place certain number of elements, maybe not enough. Continue in this way. The international arena is happy to help you, in particular the OECD, and so I think that if together you can resist, that would be fantastic.
نيابة عن الهيئة الوطنية لمكافحة الفساد نزاهة، ونيابة عن المرأة السعودية، نقدم لك الشكر والتقدير من المملكة العربية السعودية، نقول لك أهلا وسهلا بك في بلادنا المملكة العربية السعودية. شكرا. أعزائي المشاهدين، كانت ضيفتنا العالمة في مجال مكافحة الفساد وحماية النزاهة نيكولاي إيهلرمان، وهي نائبة رئيس أو مدير برنامج الاستثمار في منظمة OECD. حتى نلتقي في حلقة قادمة من برنامج نزاهة، أنا محسن الشيخ الحسن يقول شكرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.